Today's topics: the full stop rule, burnout is a life issue, sound for stillness, healing is an inside job, and reclaim your joy.
Rambling on, no straight lines. Welcome to my busy.
Hello and welcome to episode 36 of Ramblings of a Busy Mind. My guest today is Jacquie Grillon. I knew I would bubble that.
That was fine. That was absolutely fine.
Grillon, and she is okay. I gotta read that because I just wrote that down. Soul guided human helper, helping to navigate all things. I love that. It's so. Tell us a little bit about you.
Oh, listen, I have been through it. You grow up thinking that you're normal only to find out later like nothing's normal. And then you kind of spend the rest of your life trying to fix it if you're me, because you had no other choice because emotional pain made you look and work through all of the things that you were wanting to avoid your whole life.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. It's funny. I just learned about. I never used the word neurodiversity. It's not my vocabulary because I see everybody as an individual and we're just different. That's it.
Right.
But I was invited to do a presentation, and in that case, I learned that I'm neurospicy too.
That's it. And you know what? I know and love that now. I didn't know that before. And once you know and it resonates with you, it explains everything or most things. And when you realize it was 90% of your personality growing up that you were shamed for, you have a lot of grieving to do around it as well.
It's not like it's not as bad. And I find it so not bad. There's no bad in it, but
Yeah, of course.
it's not as severe, which is even a weird word. Kara Jean, who was one of my guests, Kara Jean Wilson, she has the Kara method, and she's so funny. She says, "Well, we're neurospicy because the spice rack is from a little bit salty to hot, 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 hot." And that's so basically everybody is, right? That's the point. Everybody has their quirks. Everybody has something that they're a little bit different than others. And that's why I never needed that word.
Yeah.
But to listen to the others and then go like, oh, yeah, I do this. Oh, yeah, I do that. I never considered myself different because of that. But everybody is different anyway. Everybody's an individual. So why would we be the same? Why would we need the same?
I would have loved to have grown up in a household where they believe that. That would have been awesome. But the world that I grew up in was, do as I say, not as I do. I'll give you something to cry about. I went to Catholic school where it was like get in line or get spanked, hit, and hair pulled and shamed. And, so it was very much about being who they wanted you to be.
I guess for me, it was my grandmother that always fostered us being individuals. Like we
I
got
love that.
experience everything, like whatever crafts we wanted to try. She took us out to archaeological digs. She did all kinds of, and the funniest thing was my grandmother always said she's not religious, but then every time one of us had a test or whatever, she would run and light a candle.
I love it. Yeah, well, you don't have to be religious to light a candle. I light
No,
lots of candles and I don't consider myself religious at
no, but
all.
she would go and pray for Mother Mary. That's what
Yeah, I do as well, but that still doesn't make me religious. I love that. And I love that you were allowed to be free to pursue that.
Yeah, in our family, my parents both left church, and they were Protestant, and they decided not to be in church anymore or belong to church anymore. And so my brother and I never got baptized
Oh, okay.
because they said the kids have to make their own decisions. And to this day, I'm not baptized. And
Okay.
for the
And
longest
that's a
time,
choice.
yeah, and for the longest time, I thought I was an atheist because I didn't believe in the institution church, but it took a while and took my studies actually while I was doing my master's to realize that I'm deeply spiritual. I'm just not religious,
Same.
right? And that's quite a difference when you start learning that because having an experience with a religion teacher got me to the point that I couldn't even talk about spirituality. because for me it was one and the same. And it took the course in my studies that I learned, no, I believe in the higher good, and I believe that there's a higher energy that's guiding us. I don't believe in the word God. I just have a
Okay.
different name for it, right?
Okay.
And so as long as you believe, you're spiritual.
I mean, I don't disagree with that at all.
Yeah. But it was like an eye opener for me because I thought I was not.
Yeah, yeah, so my upbringing was a little different. It was more like a mixed message. They sent us to Catholic school and we had to go to church, but my parents didn't go to church. They weren't
Mm,
religious, but we had to be. So it was like a mixed message. So of course I was going to do anything and everything to get out of there. And of course, if you're getting abused and beaten and abused that your parents are paying for, you can't get out of there quick enough, you know.
yeah.
Um, but then religion became, and God itself, or the word God itself, became scary to me. It was something to be feared, not to be, embraced, kind of
Mm,
thing. And that carried on until I got sober, and they told me, you can find a God of your own understanding, which I love the freedom of. But in the beginning, when I first got into recovery, I'm like, listen, I'll listen to everything that you have to say, but I'm not, you're not ramming the God stuff down my throat. Like, I did not have a good experience. I'm good. I got this, but I did love the idea of being able to have my own conception of what that looked like for me. And that has changed, over the last 27 years that I even started in recovery, like of what that meant to me, considering the possibility and what that meant to be. And if it could be anything or anyone or whatever, what would that look like? And that's evolved. My God is not the man in the sky with the beard or what have you that I grew up with by any means. And, I write and pray with Mother Mary and Jesus and Mary Magdalene and other ascended masters and pray and speak with angels and things like that. And I don't consider myself religious at all. I'm not out reading the Bible and going to Bible study or anything like that,
yeah.
but I I do devotionals, and when I go to sacred sites on the lands in different countries and things like that, all of those beings are there guiding and directing and working with us, through us. I feel like they do with everyone.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not the only one that they do. It's just a
Yeah.
matter of whether you're in dialogue with them or in some kind of communion or what have you with what's going on, in alignment, connection, however you want to label it. It's open to all. It's what you choose to pick and choose of it. But I love that none of it is religious. It's about the people who walk the earth, that lived their lives and walked, their way through it, and
Mm,
their teachings. I embrace their teachings, the way that they and still were then and how they are now, and trying to revive the ancient ways and things like that. I'm all about that, but not one part of it is contained in any one religion by any means.
no, no, and that's the thing. It's all energy, frequency, information coming in, and it's just a matter of how we understand and translate that.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah. No, but it's so funny when you come to that point, like you lived for 40 years and more with the idea that you don't believe, and then all of a sudden you wake up, oh, I believe, right?
Yeah. Well, I love when somebody explained to me, like, and to be honest, I get it confused every single time because I'm not either one of them and I never was. But I think like atheist is one and agnostic is the other, but like one believes in nothing and then the other believes that we got here somehow, we just don't know what it is, and I don't remember if that's agnostic. I think that's agnostic, and atheist is you don't believe in anything or something like that. But either way, like I always knew there was a God or energy, something bigger than me. Like that part I always knew. I can feel that. I'm connected with that right now. I can feel that. I mean, and anybody who doesn't understand what I'm saying is like walk outside and look up at the stars or stand in front of an ocean or look at a rainbow or when you're in the forest. It's just that feeling of being connected to all that is, and that, you know, um, closeness that you feel that you just don't get otherwise if you're not connected.
I find also when you go all to the old ancient, like we living in Europe was not a hard thing to go to Greece or Italy, to
Yeah.
old places. And when you stand there and all of a sudden you get that, like it's a strange feeling in your gut, in your heart, and you have Pompeii was something like that for me. And it's like almost like you can almost feel the heartbeat of the city, but it's not quite there. Right. And I wasn't even dabbling in energy work at that time, but still the connection, like energetic places are so amazing, and you know
Yeah.
exactly when you step into them because everything changes.
Yeah, like even just as you're talking about it, and I'm envisioning the places like Mount Shasta in California and in the south of France and in Egypt, and and just thinking about that as you're speaking, like I'm getting full body chills of like how you feel when you're walking on the lands. Real or imagined, it works for me. And I am forever changed by going to those places and communing on the land with the land.
Mm. When you work with somebody and you use the word like I do, guide, um, do you go to such places sometimes? Do you pick such places?
Well, it's interesting that you say that. So, I, for years, have always been called to go to these places, right? And I usually go with different groups, right? And there sometimes it's the same group, sometimes it's different groups. Wherever I get called to go, I go to wherever the spiritual places are, right? And then I'll come back and I'm working with people, one to one or in groups or, whatever I'm doing. Some are non-spiritual groups. They're just like, healing circles. And the other ones are more spiritual healing circles where you're doing more meditations and things like that, right? It's more, I don't know, I guess you would call it woo in today's world. But, um, in sharing some of the stories or the pictures or whatever, I guess sometimes it sparks or inspires others, and they're like, "Oh my God, like I want to go and do that. I want to do whatever." And I'm like, "But what am I going to teach them? Like, I just get like called to go to these places. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, what would I do? Like having retreats and things like that. But they always want to go. So I definitely see myself bringing people that are being called as well as I am, the ones that are interested in doing that, but not on a commercial, let me sell you some kind of thing and wear, red dresses and white dresses and all the things that are out there today where they're like over commercializing ascended masters and all the things that are kind of being overdone. I don't know, and I'm not, and I don't even want to judge or knock them down, because maybe that's how they revere who they're working with or what have you. But I feel like if you are bringing groups of people there, I don't feel like you have to require them to do that. Like if they're being called to put that on, then that's fine. But I don't feel like you should be telling everybody else to do that. Like let them do what they're being called to do. But yeah, so that's what I would probably do. I would love to do that. Like, if I could make a living like that, that would be like the ideal thing. I would be traveling around to sacred sites, telling people what I'm getting, and we're going to the land and just, you know, um, being devotional, and then coming and anchoring light, and then coming back to where you are and anchoring light. I mean, that's being of service on the grandest scale.
I just while you were talking, I was thinking I would love to have some experiences taking people to places where like those energy places and just have
Yeah.
sense their bodies.
Exactly. Just sit there, like not all the over the top pomp and circumstance where people are bringing sound bass and drums. And I love all of that stuff. Don't get me wrong. Like, sound healing healed my neuro spicy brain. It was the only way I could learn how to meditate. But there's a time and a place for quiet, stillness, peace, not Instagram pictures and oh, I was here and all of that. Because,
Yeah.
if I was to do that, it would be like, and I can't police or control whoever I would bring, but I definitely can, build it into the architect of like, okay, so, this is going to be like quiet or still time or whatever else. And then when you're done, it's like, all right, take all the pictures you want and let's go, like kind of thing, and leave the
Yeah.
land as you found it kind of thing.
You don't have we did that in Costa Rica in 2020. We did a work retreat where we were six eight healers that came together and that shared. So every morning we would work on each other. We would share our
I
own
love that.
ideas and how we worked, and then in the afternoons we would be out and be going on excursions and whatever. But the point being is it allowed us to be immersed in that. Like I've never been to Costa Rica before, but
Okay.
being there And being in the healing in the morning allowed a lot of things just to come forward because you were in a different space, you were in a different energy, and you had different sensations, different senses were activated at times. And what people don't realize, we can perceive energy through our energetic information with our five senses.
Right.
And most people, when you say, oh, what do you sit, mostly you say, what do you feel, right? Instead of saying what comes to mind. And then when you open up the mind for all the five senses
Right.
and your emotions, the pictures that come, the feelings that come, some have auditory experiences because all of a sudden you're open for all of that to come in, and you don't limit yourself to one sense.
Right.
Right. And feel a lot of people don't even know that they receive or perceive with one sense and not the other. Um, and that can be very freeing and very, very exciting because all of a sudden there's all those new ideas and new impressions that will give you a different sense of your body. It will give you a different sense of your surrounding. And once you open that part of you, you will never go back. You will always be able to perceive the world with a bigger picture than you had before.
Right. Because now you have the access to it.
Exactly, exactly. And we had quite a few empaths in a course that I'm teaching. Oh, I created with my colleague that's called Raising Bioenergetic Awareness. And what we did is we took our energy healing knowledge and went a step beyond, not beyond, before the first level. And we just played with the energy and helped people to assess what their cues are, how they perceive. And a lot of empaths all of a sudden go like, oh, I'm not overwhelmed anymore because I know exactly it's mine or not.
Right.
Right.
Exactly. But that's the thing. Like we're just in a world where we're unfortunately over, not even distracted, like over distracted. And it's kind of designed like that on purpose. So even I've been on many retreats where you go on the retreats and, say there's 12 people total, there's always going to be like four or five that are there for the scenery. They didn't come for the spiritual stuff. They came because their friend came. They could care less about anything. They just want to, take their pictures and do their shopping and what have you. And of course the group is designed that way, right? Whoever shows up is there to irritate or confront, trigger, whatever it is. Like I feel like it's all in order. So it's just part of the process. There's always going to be that one that asks a million questions that you're like, shut up, I want to go already, I want to go, whatever. And then there's going to be the ones that do what have you. But if it's built into the curriculum, which I like, is that, when you're starting out and you're all healers and you're all whatever, and you do whatever in the morning and it just like sets the tone for that, you're not going to be running for your phone, you're not going to be running to do the gift shop, you're going to want to be in the energy of that and be curious to explore more of that.
Mm.
And that's what I'm about. Like I love doing that. Like I'll go as deep as people will go, and that doesn't mean that I don't get distracted and I don't want to go to the gift shop or take Instagram pictures either. But if I'm there to do whatever, I want to be in the energy of that. And I like the quiet. And I know a lot of people do anything to not be in the quiet.
Yeah. I find living intentionally has changed a lot in my life. It I was able to incorporate it once I got to a better level, not being so overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Even starting in the burnout with setting intention and being intentional proved so much more beneficial for me because all the things I do became more and more focused because with the intention, I have the focus of receiving, of achieving a certain goal and will do
Yeah.
my best to reach. While before I'm without an intention, I'm like, yeah, maybe, I don't know. But and I find that's in burnout or in the overwhelm is a very easy way to get distracted and get out of there because then you're not focused, you're not present, right?
Well, yeah, exactly. And I feel like that's the whole point, is coming to get comfortable with being uncomfortable in the quiet, in the stillness, in the peace of that. And for me, when I didn't know I had ADHD. I didn't know, I hadn't healed, any of the traumas or healing that I had needed to walk through. All I did know is, they were like, hey, all right, try and meditate for an hour. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't even sit still, let alone be still inside. You know what I mean? Like I can't even sit still on the outside, let alone, my legs go in, my whatever. So that's just on the outside. And then on the inside, my head is like this all the time. Like that's never stopping. What are you talking about? And so to go from that to, and never did I want the quiet. I would be the one filling the space in between, like somebody having a conversation because I needed it to be filled because it was terrifying to be in the quiet. But when you walk through all of that stuff and you find the peace on the other side of it, it's kind of addicting. You want more of that peace. But until and unless you take the time, like you say, to be present and still and get a taste of that, they don't, maybe know another way.
I um I found that so interesting when the singing bowls came into my life.
Same.
For the first time, my brain didn't have to hold on to thoughts.
Yep.
And the first class that I took while I did my Ayurvedic training, we had a psychologist come in and she was working, like she was taking the class too. And it was so interesting to see because she came in and she came in like this. She wouldn't look you in the eye. She wouldn't talk to you.
Oh, wow.
And then after 2 days, she goes out and says, bye, everybody. Have a great weekend. Seeing that
Okay.
change from being so shut down to so
Yeah.
open, that's what got me hooked on the singing bowls and in a big way. And to this day, you put the singing bowl in my hands and I'm happy. What
Yeah,
I've seen,
same. Or listening to them.
what I've seen is with PTSD clients, burnout, anybody, mental health challenges, you give them a
Yeah.
singing bowl and they become quiet.
Yeah. Or though it has gone another way because, I wasn't playing the singing bowls at the time. I was just going to sound baths. Like somebody who brought me to a sound bath and said we were going to go to this lady's house and I was going to lay down on the floor for an hour and be still. And I was like, no, thanks. That's not my idea of a Friday night. But I did go because I was curious. And although my mind did not shut off for that hour, my body was completely still. Like I couldn't move my body if I wanted to, and I didn't want to, but I did see colors and pictures and like things like that. And it's the first time like that I was able to just be still on the outside. And then slowly it evolved to being able to be still on the inside and to sit longer. And that was my gateway drug, so to speak, into meditation because it was the only thing that I can do. And then when I started playing them, it was the same thing. And when I realized how much it actually helps neurospicy or spectrumy kind of things, is I was doing a sound bath out in the park and I was doing a sound bath with another girl. She was playing like the regular, like classic, white frosted bowls, and I was playing the like crystal tones, alchemy bowls. And so this guy comes over with his caregiver, and he's, 40 or something, but you could tell he's, he's challenged in some way or disabled in some way. And he was just very curious and had no boundaries and walked right up to the bowls and was like, what is this? What is this? Like touching it and what have you. And, so we were explaining, and he said, I have a mental illness. And he didn't get into it and we didn't need to know. And we were like, okay. He goes, when you play that, I don't have a mental illness. And I was like, holy
I
crap.
know, I know.
I mean, you don't even have to sum it up any further because I identified with that guy when he said that. I'm like, I hear you, sir. I hear you because I feel the same exact way. I feel normal. I feel like I can have peace. I feel like all things are possible. And that's all he said was, I don't have a mental illness when you play that bowl.
I found it so interesting because I couldn't deal with the crystal balls, and mainly because they were rubbed most of the times. I learned later when you tap them, they're easier to digest for me. But in full blown burnout, I could not deal. I would puke basically
Yes.
because they
Yes.
are bringing me even more into my head. While the metal ones, and the way I'm trained is we just tap them for the most part. We don't rub them, so you have the full spectrum of the singing bowl. um, they provide the grounding, and that's another interesting part is that again when you take a singing bowl and you tap it and the ones that I have from Peter has to have a frequency range. If I take a large pelvic bowl, which is very grounding, is 100 to 900 hertz. But if I rub that, I'm only getting the higher frequencies. I'm not getting those low 100, 200, 300
Tones,
hertz.
right?
I only get the high notes, and that brings you back into your head, while everything lower brings you in your feet.
Oh, well, that completely makes sense for sure. I will say like 90% of the people, maybe even more. Well, I'll even be dare enough to say 95% of the people I've ever turned on or brought to a sound bath or what have you that I like, that I resonated with. Because believe me, I've been to sound baths where they're screeching and whatever they're doing is not playing sound bowls and it doesn't resonate with anything in my body. And I got to go. I want to run from those places. And it's not because I'm not looking at my stuff, it's how they're being played.
Yeah.
They're, I have brought a small amount of people to bowls and they hated it because I was like, if I can, all of everything I experience, everybody will like them. I
Mm.
never took into account that it might affect or trigger people in ways or confront people in ways that they were not ready for. In other words, ripping their security blanket off,
Yeah.
right? So I had to be the counselor in that moment and be like, oh my God, okay, she's triggered. This is not okay. What have you. I brought my mom to the bowls one time. Forget it. My mom, went to therapy for 40 years, but she kind of couldn't go there,
Mm.
and so she didn't like it. She did come with me like 20 years later again because it was my birthday. And she's like, what are you doing for your birthday? I said, I'm going to the Bulls. And she was like, ugh. And I was like, why, you want to come? Because I knew she wasn't going to come because I knew what happened the first time. And she was like, I'll go. And I'll try him again. And I was like, what? And she did go and she sat in a chair. She did not get on the floor with a blanket and pillow or anything. And after it was done, she actually was like, you know what? It really wasn't that bad. And that was 20 years later. So I don't know what happened in between that and whatever. But the fact that she was even willing was surprising to me. But there's been other people where they were decompensating, like, and they were like, get me out of here. Like, couldn't run fast enough to get out. And
Part of that is, I believe, the intention of the facilitator, right?
oh,
If you have
you mean the facilitator running the
the
sound bath?
show, yeah, the energy of the facilitator plays into the singing bowls, plays into
I
everything.
agree. I totally agree.
And
And
I
maybe she
find,
doesn't trigger me, right?
yeah,
But she triggered somebody
I
else, right?
find some people that are like that are in it for their ego
Yeah, for
have
sure.
a different experience than somebody who does it out of compassion and heart for the others.
I agree. I totally
And
agree.
it's like it doesn't matter where you go to, what you do. If the facilitator who runs the show is in it for the money and for his ego,
Yeah,
it's a totally different sensation than when you sit in it when there's somebody who does it with heart.
I agree. And when the Bulls are playing them versus they are playing the Bulls,
Yeah,
I agree.
yeah. So you have all kinds of clients.
Yeah, I mean, they're from different, all walks of life, so to speak. Like I have corporate clients, and I've done team building for corporate. But I also have like housewives who are like burnt out and have like lost their way and they've lost their joy, because they forgot what balance is in their life and they feel like they have to do everything for their children first, which is never ending in this day and age. And it's
Yeah.
just there's no time for taking care of yourself. And then, all kinds of people in between, young and old. I'm very surprised. But what I'm not surprised at nowadays is it's always the same kinds of people. It's always the same energy. I'm always fascinated that whoever's attracted to me or whoever we are attracting in life in general, not just me and my business, are always people who what they come to me for, I've already worked through. Like there's very few people I have to be like, okay, like, maybe they come to me for a couple different things and there might be one or two that I'm like, I have zero experience in that, like, but I know X, Y, and Z who could probably help you with that. But I feel like most of the people we attract are people we are supposed to work with. And the same thing, and the same thing that we're attracted to other people that are supposed to teach us and work with us. And, your people find your people, which I love.
Yeah. Do you find that I always say burnout is not just a workplace thing anymore,
No,
even so
no,
they
no,
didn't
no.
change the definition for that yet. But do you find that too, that you find burnout in every areas of life?
Every single area, absolutely, and especially here in the US for sure, because it's always grind, 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 go, go, go. There is no, it used to be when I was younger working for corporations that, you would get lunch hours and sick days and this and that, and they're still there per se, but they're pretty much encouraged for you not to take any of that, not to even take your holidays or sick time or any of that. And it's actually discouraged in some places, so they make the culture where it's like cool and loose and whatever, but they want you to stay. The reason they do that is because they want you to stay there all day and all night and to basically have no life. And that's not sustainable. And then there's other, I've seen tons of coaches out there that are like, hey, are you burnt out and overwhelmed? Well, guess what? You can still do everything you want to do and still keep your job. And I'm going to show you how. And I'm like, okay, good for you. Because that wasn't my experience. My experience was being burnt out, overextended, insane, and out of my mind. And I needed to step down for lots of positions and, find some balance and peace in my life and then say, where's my joy? Where do I want, that's where you learn how to work smarter, not harder. It's not about he who works the hardest wins. It's more like he who works the hardest will die earlier, and not happy and without joy.
Mm.
Like if you're missing joy and peace and, like I have grandkids, time with grandkids because you're working, 15 hours a day. I feel like you're missing the point of why we're here on the planet. But that's just, my take.
No, it's my take too. I have a different background that says choose happiness everywhere, anytime, and any.
Yes.
Um, if you meet somebody today on the street or at a party or whatever, and well, we mostly have a radar for people who are burned out. That's
Yes.
what do you recommend to them?
First, well, I mean, it depends on the person, but like if I just met some random person on the street that I could tell was, you know, at their last, at their wits end kind of thing, I would ask them like, when was the last time you did something that you liked for yourself, like for joy? And I don't mean like going to get a manicure or something that you need to be presentable for work and you call that self-care. I mean
Mm.
something that like sparks joy in your life. I don't care if it's taking a walk on the beach or going in nature or knitting. I don't care what it is, but it's not something where it's about what it looks like. It's about what's just for you, because people are like, oh, I work out and I get massages and I get this and I get that. And I'm like, no, no, no. I mean, like, like, what did you like when you were a little? I don't even know what that is. I haven't had time. I have kids or I have work or I run a, multi-billion-dollar corporation. Okay, fine. Well, what did you like when you were a kid? Like, what did you do? Like, what sparked joy? And I don't care if it was like, spinning around, until you got dizzy and then looking up at the clouds or, walking in nature. Or like I said, it could be anything, swimming, knitting, but not a chore, not where it was something where somebody was giving you a paycheck. You just did it because that's what you like to do and you love to do. I don't care what it is. And, and I've had one woman before the three kids, she used to be an equestrian rider, right, when she was younger. And she hadn't done any of that in years. And she hadn't been in the stables or anything like that. And of course, she was really good. So she won awards and all of that kind of thing. And so she had the kids and she had two boys and then a little girl. And she was like, I don't have time for that. I would love to go back and, go back to riding, but you know how much that costs. Do you know how much time is involved in all of that? I would, I'm old now, so I wouldn't be good. And if I can't be good and can't be the best, then why do it at all? All that, stuff we make up, all the imposter syndrome and all the things that get in the way, you know, um, and then somehow along the way, all you have to do is plant a seed here or there, right? You just plant the seeds. And then somewhere along the line, it's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And you work through, whatever. And then I just let it go after that. I'm like, oh, okay, well, what else do you like to do? Oh, what else? Well, are you willing to do anything that's free that you don't have any excuse for that you can just do it? I mean, I don't word it that way, but you know what I mean? Like take away all the barriers and they'll come up with something. But this girl, she somehow along the way was resistant to all of that. No, 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 no. I don't have time. I don't have money. I don't have anything. Is now not only is she riding, but she's got her daughter riding. And of course, her daughter's winning prizes and they're posting them all over Facebook. And her sons are involved. They're not really doing the riding, but the daughter is. But they love being in the stables and cleaning the horses, like all the things. It's like a family affair now. But guess what? There's joy there again now. Not only that, but
Then
she's finally teaching her children what joy looks like in her.
yeah, and I love that because how often do we not look for the joy in our life?
Exactly. And
And
I didn't do anything. All I did was ask questions. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not a
that's
miracle worker, you
yeah,
know?
yeah, that's what I do when I work with somebody. So I usually have them in the sound, which means singing bowls underneath in the
Of
zero
course.
gravity here, and then singing bowls on top, and then they can share whatever they want. And I tie in when I hear the stressors in the voice.
Yeah.
So I start asking questions, and mainly because I've learned with friends who struggle with mental health, that when I start asking questions, the questions can lead for them to get out of that circle of thoughts that they cannot
The
break through.
loop. Right,
Yeah.
right,
And then all of a sudden there's those moments where they go like, oh, that's why this, and oh, I might do this. And then
right. They connect their own dots.
it's their work, it's not mine. And that's why I like the word guide better than mentor or
Absolutely.
um
Absolutely. And some people need that. Like, when people are open to it, when I work with them, some of them want me to just do energy work on them the whole time. But a lot of times, that'll change really quick, because sometimes in the beginning they feel like whatever I'm doing is going to fix them, heal them, what have you. Like what I used to do, I would go to healers and spend thousands of dollars hoping that they would take whatever it is out of me so I would be a normal person again, and it doesn't work like that. All roads lead back to inside. It's an inside job, right? But that doesn't mean that energy work and being and holding space for someone, that's, I feel like the most sacred thing we can do for someone. But you have to have done your own work, because if you haven't, you know dived deep enough to hold space, and somebody it needs to go here and you haven't gone there, that's kind of irresponsible to have them sit there and open up to you and you can't go there for them. So just doing our own work and doing that, and then using the energy work as complementary to them,
mhm.
instead of them looking for it to be the answer to all their problems, kind of thing, or
Yeah,
whatever. I feel
yeah.
like it's an invitation inward, if they accept the invitation.
We have in therapeutic touch, we have the saying, we create, like, we as the healer create the circumstances for the innate healing to occur.
Yeah, it's like that in like Reiki as well. It's kind of the
Yeah,
same thing. We create the
it's
conditions,
we
right?
just create the circumstances. Any healing is innate and is totally personal. It's never anything that
Absolutely.
anybody else can do for you, because yes, we can alleviate the symptoms, we can make it better for a bit, but as you don't change, the illness doesn't change, the sickness
Exactly.
doesn't change, whatever you have, you struggle with, will not change because there's no change in you.
Right.
And that's
Exactly.
what a lot of people don't see, or they're so comfortable in their pain and fear and angst and whatever they live through, that they are not wanting to step out of it yet.
And that's the thing too. It's you can have people come to you and they're willing and they're open and they say a lot of things and they really believe that they are open. But then when you have them on a table or you're working with them online or whatever else, from the energy that maybe their head is willing, but their body is like, no way,
Yep.
not gonna
Yep.
happen, shut down, zero, you're not getting in here kind of day. And it's fine. And so you can only work with what you have. But it's just amazing to me that how many people think they're ready and willing, that their bodies are not, like, and their bodies are protecting them, and I try to explain that to them and they're like, but I am ready, I'm ready, I'm ready, I'm ready. And I was like, again, with the security blanket, like, you wouldn't want to rip somebody's security blanket off, and that would lead to exposure, of something that they weren't able to deal with, and that would not be safe for anybody, you know.
Mm.
So you go to the edge of it and you hang out in uncomfortability land and you put your toe in and then you take it back out. And now you have to just do some tempering. You know, but it's not going to be a quick dive in the pool when you're working with something like that.
No, I always say willing, able, and ready. If one of those is
Absolutely.
not giving, there's no change. And
Yes. And there's
there might be short term, there might be like a little bit stuff that changes, but the deep down, core down is not changing at all if you're not willing, ready in
absolutely.
it. And what I find is that your mind might say you are, but again, your body says no, as you just said, or your emotions say no. So you're not ready to let go of the emotion. You want to have change, but you're not ready to let go of the emotion. So you will not have change because the emotion will always override everything that you do. Right?
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree.
Yeah. So Reiki sound. What else? What is your tools?
Oh, well,
What your
first
tool
of
box?
all, well, before I even started to do any healing, I told you I went to all of those different healers. And while I was doing that, I decided to get certified in every one of those things, right? IET, Rising Star, what else? Uh, uh, EFT. Did
Mm-hmm.
I say that already?
No?
Uh, I'm not sure. But anyway, so I get certified in all these things. And I'm like, when am I ever using any of these things? Oh, and then Holy Fire Reiki when it came out later,
Mm-hmm.
because I felt very highly called to that. And now I know why, because the frequency was just a lot higher and it was a lot of like brothers and sisterhood of the light kind of thing. And you know, higher heavens and things like that. And I really somehow resonated with that, and things like that. But yeah, so I got certified in all of those things. I didn't do any of my own work. And then I landed in a therapist chair anyway. And then I became a counselor. Because, of course, if I'm going to get certified in all things energy, I might as well get certified in that. And I think more so than anything else, I was just fascinated by psychology and the brain and how everything works and how everything is connected. And I've been really amazed with piecing my own dots back together and connecting my own dots. And I'm still connecting them even years later, you know, getting late diagnosed with ADHD, which I always just assumed was part of my CPTSD, you know, and I just always assumed because they do overlap in there. So there's a lot of overlap. And it's not until all your coping mechanisms that you've learned don't work anymore that you realize, oh, there's other things going on. And, you know, of course, then, you know, menopause, you know, comes in and says, hey, let's shine a light on all of those things. But you know what? I'm glad that it happened because otherwise I wouldn't know. I would just think that all of this was all my trauma. And now all of the things that used to work didn't work anymore. I would never have connected any of the neuro spicy dots that all make sense now. I'm watching in my grandson, like I'm seeing him, and I'm doing my best to not project my stuff, but I can tell my son thinks that that's what I'm doing. But when my grandson is doing the same thing with foods that I did, that he did, and you know, he's not as, you know, you can just see it. And he was 3, he just turned 4. You can just see how he is. And when he does have big feelings and you do sit with him and co-regulate, he's great. You know what I'm saying? So it's just a matter of learning how to work with it. And I
Mm-hmm.
love in today's world that they're teaching that in parenting now, that
Mm-hmm.
they're having classes like he goes to food school to help with texture, you know, food textures and you know, and they use all their senses, just like you said, you know, as far as gifts go. But he's learning how to try new things and things like that, which I didn't have, you know, and things like that. So I was just called a picky eater and was shamed for it, you know, just like you're too loud, you're too much, you're
I
too
yeah.
this.
Yeah, I hear you. And that's the biggest part, like being shamed for anything or not being able to fulfill any expectations that people have on you, right? And then
Yeah,
being judged for that. That is so detrimental to your mental health because it shuts you
yeah.
down. It creates such a block in you that you my mom, and I'm not shaming my mom for that, but it was funny looking back. It's funny. It wasn't funny until I was 10. My mom always said, it's your little brother, you cannot hit him. I couldn't hit my little brother until I was 10. And he did something that he deserve to be smacked for, so he got smacked. That was the first time. But having that block just because somebody said something like that, and how often do we say something without thinking about what that might do to somebody else, right?
To their psyche, right?
Yeah, and I find that's the point too, when I'm working with somebody as healing for me, um I tend to be very, very put off with people who are working from ego, because
Oh
that's
yeah,
not,
for sure.
yeah, when they come towards you and you have to do it this way because I say so. No, I don't,
Yeah,
because I function a different way. Offer me options and I'll pick the one that works for me. But
exactly.
if you just are like, I just want, we had a beautiful discussion in one of the conferences for therapeutic touch where we were talking about how holding the space and how being offering, not giving treatments. Because if you take the concept of offering, it's up to them to take what they need and when they need it, instead of you pushing it into them.
Yeah, for
And one
sure.
of my colleagues said, but what do I do with my boss? I want him to change. I said, you don't do anything. You leave him be. Yeah, but I want him to change.
Go to Al-Anon or Coda.
It's it's ego. If you want it, if you heal, if
Yeah,
it's so important that you heal somebody, then it's not about the other person. Then it's
right.
not about compassion, right?
In recovery, there's a saying, because, when you sponsor other people, right, and you're helping them, navigate through their recovery, and when you step into like crazy town, right, it's that you want it more than they want it, right? So, the saying pretty much goes that that the minute that you want their recovery more than they do, that's it.
It's
You
not
stepped
about
over the
them.
line. Like that's
Yeah.
it. You have to come back from that, because if they don't want it and you want it more and it's their life, like it's, that's it. Now I've stepped over into codependence and I need to walk it back and stay on my side of the street, and then let them be the cue. If they start to want it, then I get to be willing to help them however they're willing to go. But if they're not willing, then I have to, no matter how much I'm willing for them, I'm not them.
I have a friend who was suicidal, and I said to him, I said, if you want to talk, I'm here for you all the time. I root for you. But if you want to kill yourself, you're gonna do that anyway. So I'm not gonna cuddle you.
Yeah.
And he said that was one of the things that kept him going, because I was always honest with him. But also with him, that's where I learned that asking questions and not telling him what to do would help him getting out of that circle of thoughts.
Right. Just like holding space with him and
Yeah,
meeting
yeah,
him where he was at instead of trying
exactly.
to trying to fix him.
Yeah. And that's the same for me, the same. That's why I said neurodiversity for me is not a word that I often, or that I use as like before. Um, because it's the same thing. I try to meet people where they are
Right.
and not where I'm at.
Yeah. And that's like, counseling 101, like, first day of counseling is like you have to meet them where they're at, not where you want them to be or need them to be or, wish they would be. It's like you have to meet them where they're at, not
Yeah. Yeah.
anywhere else.
Yeah. I started driving taxi this year in August,
Okay.
and
That's fun.
that's so funny because the conversation, and lately it's been funny because how often does my work come up? My
Uh,
work.
Only if, they're maybe in a group and they're talking about things that you're into and you'd be like, hey, I do that or whatever.
No,
Like,
no, it's just we just start a conversation and we start talking about why do you drive taxi and what do you do and blah blah blah, and it's this and that, and then, oh, we need you.
oh, that's awesome.
That's so funny. But no, it's interesting to see like the people that you get into the taxi, like again, you have all those individuals that are in different levels, different states of mind and so on.
Absolutely.
And you cannot be just that box that just functions with one kind of people. That doesn't work, right? And I
Well,
like to
you
talk.
can, but you're going to have a very small life.
Yes. It's so much more fun being out there and listening to other people and listening to their stories.
Yes, I
like the
love that.
podcast, right? It's so interesting the different stories that are brought to the table and the things how people cope, how people deal with what they do and how they overcome where they come from.
Yep.
Do
That's
you
our wisdom.
do you have a tip like a book or a podcast or any person healer whatever that you follow that you would recommend to people when you meet them and they say, well, I'm in overwhelm and I need something to start my journey?
Um, I don't necessarily, I mean, it depends on like who's in front of me and what their core issues are and things like that, where I'll direct them to, something spiritual or, maybe it's recovery based or people pleasing or something like that. Like I have go-to books for all of those things, but like it depends. I guess it depends on what the thing or piece would be, like, um, so I feel like that depends on where they're at, but anybody who's coming to me in overwhelm and burnout and exhaustion, the first thing I'm going to tell them to do, whether they're calling me or wanting to work with me and pay me, or like I said, I meet them in the food store, is if they're willing to have a conversation with me, is I'm going to make them stop and get still somehow just to breathe, just to get back in their body, just to ground them because that's stuff that they're not doing. They're not doing any of that. And if I can just get them to do that and kind of get to a place where they can break down whatever is in their loopy, overwhelmed mind into manageable, tiny little pieces that are doable, then I can go from there because now we can start a roadmap of to, books or suggestions or referrals or what have you, or, call this one or work with me or whatever it is. And I don't feel like I'm not the guru on anybody's whatever. Like if I'm supposed to help somebody, I know that I'm supposed to help them. I'm not going to be the salesperson who's going to try and close a deal on you. I mean, I do health insurance and I'm not the dirty car salesman that does that. I just want to help people get their needs met, whatever that looks like. I want to be a good human. I want to give back. I'm doing my own work. I like to work with people who are doing their own work or at least willing to do their own work. That makes it a little easier, but sometimes you don't get that and you get a lot of, fight. But, that's what I gave to all my teachers that I worked with. I was like, no, I'm fine. No, I'm fine. Yes, I am willing, and I'm not. Like my head wants to be willing, but that doesn't mean I am, so when you know all of that. But overwhelm and burnout, it's going to be a stop, like full stop. You have to stop. You got to give me 5 minutes of your life. And then whatever you want to do after that is going to be your choice. But at least you're going to buy yourself a little breathing room from whatever happened 5 minutes before I met you.
One of my favorites is when I go shopping, and I used to work in like as a cashier when I was younger, and then you see them like go crazy and I don't know, and
You
blah blah
can
blah.
see it. You can see it literally on
Hey,
their
hey,
face.
take a breath
Yep.
and slow down. It's not gonna work when you get faster because
Exactly.
then it's gonna definitely gonna fail. That's the point. And as soon as you go into that
Yep.
state, it's not gonna work. Just take your breath and you're gonna be faster by being slower. That's the fun part.
Yeah, and I think that that's the hardest thing to wrap, or it was the hardest thing that I had to wrap my brain around, that like work smarter, not harder. Like there's things that if I allow life to support me, I don't have to do. And that's not how life is meant to be anyway, because now I'm overcommitted and insane and out of my mind, whatever. And so where is there room for God, Mother Mary, the universe, whatever you believe in, to work their magic? There is no room for any spiritual higher power to support me or the universe, whatever you believe in, to support me if I'm the one do. And I feel like it's my job to
Mhm.
do. There is no room for magic or God or whatever it is, life to just be lifey. So if you can, get that pause, that distance, that step back, that creates some kind of space for some kind of life spark magic to come in and allow it to happen. Buy yourself a little allowance. You might, afford yourself some more later.
Yeah. The the time to smell, like trust that there's time to smell the roses. Let's say it this way.
Absolutely. And like you were saying earlier about like, getting still with the people that you were doing the healing with in Costa Rica, there's been plenty of times, like a lot of my gifts are, I'm not very visual. I'll get pictures and images and things like that, but I have a lot of auditory. I'm very intuitive and I just know things and I don't know how I know them, but you're definitely not talking me out of it at all because that's just what it is. That's just what it's going to
Mhm.
be. And that's just what it is. And I've learned to trust that. But every now and then, I will get, the smell of roses when there's no roses or the smell of whatever. And I'm like, oh, okay, and then I'll tie something else together. And I was like, oh, okay. I'm not really big on the smells, but in the quiet and in the, purpose, intentional, wherever or whatever I'm doing, when things come up, I know exactly what they are from smell as
And
well.
that's a matter of translating energetic vibration as
Yes,
information
exactly.
into
Like
your
what the
body.
messages are. Yep.
Yes. Yeah. And I find it so hard. Like the kids are so in tune with it, and then they go to school and they're done.
I know, which is why I'm trying to connect with my grandkids now, but they're in school, like they go to preschool and stuff like that. But I try and get them like away from the parents and whatever, just like when we're playing. And I'm like, hey, so, what do you think about whatever? Because the ones that are still in tune with it are going to be like, oh, yeah, whatever. And the other ones are going to be like, what are you talking about? Like, and then I know that then it's done. Like they're over 5 and they're already cut off already, kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, that was lovely, Jackie. We're gonna post all your information as usually as it usual, underneath the video in the description. So if anybody feels drawn to you, feels resonating with you, then they can reach out. And I love the tips and the synchronicity because there are so many things that we do the same, even though we do it differently. And
Yeah.
that's what people don't see either. We don't compete. We
No, I
just
feel
do
like there is so
differently.
much need for all of us. And as the world wakes up even further, there's going to be even greater need for more of us doing our own work. The more people who have done their own work and are continuing to be willing to do their own work and dive deeper into themselves, the more they can be of service to other people.
Mhm. Every client, every student, every podcast guest for me has been an eye opener to my things. Every single time I have somebody there, there is something that I learn about me, my past, the way I am now, and maybe even my future, just by
Exactly.
having the conversation. And it's so nice because all this information is at hand. And you just have to find the right resonance, the right people you resonate with to bring
Right.
forth what you don't see.
And
Like,
that's the thing. And that's as easy as saying a prayer to whatever you believe in. Like, show me to my people. It could be as simple as that. Show me
yeah,
to my people. And I've done it a million times.
yeah.
And I always get shown to my people, and my people always find me somehow or another. And I love how it works like that. I love the magic because I'm finally allowing life to have its way with me.
Yeah, and don't restrict yourself. Be open for the opportunities and possibilities that come in
Absolutely.
when you don't think you're the same thing with dating. If you would think you have to have a man that's like this, that's that, or woman, whatever,
You're limiting yourself, right? They
you're
have to be
limiting yourself and you
5'10".
might
Right,
be
right,
very much like surprised once you open your eyes and see that there's way more out there than you think.
right. Exactly.
Like, so
I
thank you so
totally agree.
much and good luck with your office. And I hope we meet at one of those energy places one time.
I would love that. Hey, maybe we'll be doing a retreat someplace sometime. You
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 never
never
know.
know.
Thank you so much and good luck.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thoughts are racing, spinning fast. Ideas flow, but never last. Waves of wonder, thoughts untamed.